Monday, 4 p.m., Jazz Shaw and Stephen Greenstreet. Wednesday, 4 p.m., Ralph Blumenthal. 5 p.m., Skinwalker Review and Friends. On Friday, journalist Daniel Otis from Vice News Magazine. Tuesday, 4 p.m. on the Singularity Lab, Down the Wormhole. Thursday at 4 p.m., Space Robots. Come aboard and get weird on the Unidentified Celebrity Review.
The Unidentified Celebrity Review will begin in a couple minutes. As you all trickle in here, make yourselves comfortable. You can sit wherever, get some popcorn, get your beverage ready. I'd rather be squidding. I'll hopefully be keeping your interest while you wait a couple minutes for the main event here. And to that end, I want to bring up something related to the discussion yesterday at the Singularity Lab about wormholes. After that video, I rewatched one of my own videos. You can find it on the Rather Be Squidding channel. The video is called "There May Be a Primordial Black Hole in Our Neighborhood." It's exciting, not scary. You should check that video out. Here's a couple quick facts to pique your interest. In 2015, a scientific paper theorized that an object 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth is likely orbiting the sun far beyond the Kuiper belt. The authors proposed that the most likely explanation is a captured rogue planet. A 2019 paper says that there's a bunch of primordial black holes, especially ones with a mass of around 5 to 10 times the Earth out there. They think it's just as likely that our solar system captured one of these. And despite how much we look, we don't see anything there. And it would only take a spacecraft loaded with all of humanity's garbage 15 years to go there and find out. I think we should investigate. All right, we got a big show lined up today. We have Ralph Blumenthal will be here for the first hour. His name was on the byline of that 2017 New York Times article. That really made me take note. He's an institution in himself in the area of investigative reporting. I just started reading his book on the life of John Mack. It's amazing to see his hard-hitting reporting come to this issue. And I really look forward to this conversation with Louise and Michael. If you have any questions, shoot them down in the live chat. As always, I'll be taking them down and bringing them up towards the end of the hour. It's great to see you all here. We got 50 of you waiting. That's really amazing. And engagement really matters here on YouTube, and participating in the live chat is fun. So don't hold back. And hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, you should do that too. If you're feeling generous, make sure that your message comes through loud and clear with a super chat, or help make this a sustainable endeavor by joining and donating to the Patreon. You can find the link in Louise's Linktree. And with that, I think it's a little bit past 4 o'clock. I believe we're all ready. That's enough stalling from me. Let's get this party started. Your host of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Louise Jimenez and Michael Mataluni.
All right, Mr. Rather Be Squidding. Thank you so much, sir, for that kind introduction. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to this interview.
Awesome. I am too. Yeah. I mean, like you said, Ralph Blumenthal is a staple in this arena. So let's talk to him. We'll be also having Jazz Shaw joining us halfway through this chat, and so don't be afraid, because I know you're gonna have some good questions for Mr. Blumenthal. So if they pop up, get in here. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Awesome. We'll see you in a little bit. Mr. Mataluni, hello.
I'm excited.
Good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name is Luis Jimenez. That is my co-host, Mr. Michael Mataluni. Today's show is brought to you by the BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995, and also DOS Tapes. They provide all of the music that you hear on the show. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below, along with my Linktree, where you can find our Patreon and help donate and support the show. So with all of that out of the way, let's get right into this, because by the way, I have to leave about halfway through the first hour. I've got some film production meetings that I have to go to, and Michael's going to be here, but we're going to have Jazz Shaw take my place for the last half hour of the show and jam with Mr. Blumenthal. Michael, I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were about to say something.
No, I'm so thrilled. I had the pleasure of interviewing Ralph with Chrissy Newton over at the Debrief a few weeks ago, and the man is just a wealth of knowledge. He's got so much to share. So this is going to be an amazing show. If you don't know Ralph was a reporter for the New York Times from 1964 to 2009 and has written 7 books based on investigative crime reporting and cultural history. His latest book, The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack, was published March 15th, 2021. Without further ado, Ralph Blumenthal.
Hey, guys.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. We're happy that you're coming aboard and getting a little weird with us. Where do we start with you, Ralph? I mean, I feel like your career is vast. It's very well respected. A lot of folks are enjoying your new book, which we're gonna get into. But I mean, if you were interviewing Ralph Blumenthal, where would you start?
Whoa. Well, I would ask me how I got into this.
Yeah. Well, how you got into journalism, or how you got into sort of this.
How I got into aliens, how I got into UFOs, because my whole career was in hard-nosed reporting, as you suggested, for the New York Times, very earth-bound, earth-centered reporting. And suddenly in December 2017, I was part of this team that came out with a story about the secret Pentagon unit investigating UFOs. So it's a question I've gotten before. It's a natural question. How did you go from there to here? And the story is, I picked up a book. I was in Texas for the New York Times. I was a Texas Southwest correspondent, covering Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. A great beat, by the way. A wonderful paradise for a journalist. And I picked up a book called Passport to the Cosmos, which I'd never heard of before, by a guy named John Mack, who I'd never heard of before. And turned out he was a psychiatrist at Harvard University, very eminent professor of psychiatry, who got interested in the question of alien encounters. And right then and there, I thought that was interesting. I read the book. I was quite astounded by what he said about the ordinary people who had encounters with alien beings, or at least remembered having these encounters. And I thought I would give him a call. I thought he'd make a good feature story. I was very naive. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know he'd already been on Oprah and been famous, but I thought I'd give him a call. And then I picked up the paper a few days later and found out he'd been run over in London and killed. So that's what got me started. And, we can take it from there.
So that's wild. I didn't realize that your interest originally in the UAP topic was inspired by Blumenthal, and then here we are now, and you finished an entire book about him. That's fascinating.
Well, when I picked up his book, that was 2004, so that was way before I got involved in the UFO story, which had its own sort of origin story with Leslie Kean, which happened later in 2017. But I was already working on the John Mack book, and remember, they're two separate things. One is UFOs, and one is aliens. And I don't mix the two in my reporting for the New York Times, because the alien stuff is too uncorroborated to really report on at this point. And
Right.
all the stuff that's going on in the Pentagon and the report that's coming, and all the stories that we've written and other people have written, do not mention aliens for good reason, because there's no corroboration of that stuff. It's really on the objects themselves. So that's really the news, and that's plenty important as it is, because it's the first time that these objects have been given physical corroboration. They really exist. They're not imaginary. They're not reflections. They're not, Carl Jung's archetypes. They are real. Other than that, we don't know, but that's something.
Yeah. So you read the book, and then you pick up the paper and learn that he passed. So you never really had the opportunity to even meet him.
I did not. But my journalistic reaction was to reach out to the family. He had 3 sons and a wife. And so I reached out to them and I said, I'm a New York Times reporter. I'm very interested in his story. And I'd love to learn more. And what about his archive? So my timing wasn't that great, to tell you the truth, because at the time they wanted to hear from a reporter.
Right.
Very fresh news to them. But eventually I stayed in touch with them, and they did give me access. And I'm happy to say that it was unconditional access to his papers and archives and tapes and photos and everything else. They didn't ask to see my writing in advance. They didn't put on any conditions, which I wouldn't have agreed to, by the way.
Yeah.
But it never came to that. And I got full access. The only thing I didn't get access to really were his clinical sessions with abductees, but a lot of those people came forward on their own anyway afterwards, and they went public. They were on Oprah. They went on TV. So I got to them. I interviewed a bunch of them myself. So basically, I got everything, and I thought I had a great window into his mind, and it was quite an amazing mind indeed.
What? Oh, go for it, Mikey.
Well, I just had a question because you made an interesting comment here, and this is something we talk about on the show a lot, is this idea of UAP and UFO sightings and the professionalism in with which the journalistic community approaches this in regard to the government. But then you have the alien abduction stories and phenomena as well. And you mentioned that you separate those into two separate buckets for the purpose of journalism and how we approach the government. That being said, do you think there's a case to be made that these two different phenomenon are linked in some way, or at least should be looked at as we gather facts and put together the three-dimensional landscape that is this entire phenomena?
Well, there's certainly part of the picture, because if you look at it this way, the first question regarding these UFOs or UAPs, the government doesn't like the word UFO, so it calls them unidentified aerial phenomena, is, first of all, are they ours? Are they U.S. drones? Okay, so we pretty much conclusively answered that in talking to our sources. Say, no, they're not ours, because we, the U.S. government, would not be flying drones in the same airspace as F-18s, where there could be a terrible accident. Okay, so they're not ours. So then, okay, are they Russian or Chinese? Well, we're told, no, they're not Russian or Chinese, because they're so advanced, they do things aerodynamically that the Russians and Chinese or us could not do. So if they're not ours, and they're not Russian, and they're not Chinese, they're not Iranian, they're not Israeli, they're not earthly, what does that leave?
Right.
Okay? So you say, well, then they got to be off planet. But the thing is, nobody in the government, the Pentagon, is saying that for now, because they don't want to go there. It's crazy, and it's hard enough, crazy enough for them to say, we see these things in the sky and in the water, by the way, because these things are sometimes going into the ocean, in the water, and coming out of the water, okay? They're operating in media, air and water. So it's enough to say there are these things we don't know anything about, but they're not human, okay? They're operating, but other than that, we don't know. So that's about as far as that is as far as they will go, and we don't press them on that. And we understand why they're not going further than that, but that's pretty far.
Yeah, Ralph, let me ask you this: if, let's say, I could plop you into the media relations seat of, say, a Susan Goff, what would your strategy be in laying this story out for the American people in a way that doesn't overwhelm them, but at the same time informs them on maybe some things they need to know about?
Well, I think the American people have been ahead of the government on this story for a while. The government has been very fearful of talking about this ever since, Ken Arnold in 1947 and the Roswell incident, whatever you want to call it, crash, weather balloon, forget what it is or might be. It was something very strange. So ever since then, the government has really clamped down and put out a bunch of reports basically saying, nothing to see here, folks, just move on. But people are smarter than that, and they know, especially people who have seen these UFOs over the years, many, many, many people, thousands of people. And many of them are trained observers, ex-pilots, military, veterans. And when the government said, oh, you're looking at the planet Venus, you're looking at a reflection, from the desert floor.
Yeah.
They know that they weren't. So they have been ahead of the government for a long time. So now the government is so afraid say, we have really tracked some of these things off the Nimitz, Nimitz, off Theodore Roosevelt, and we don't really know what they are, but we know pretty much that they're not human because they don't look like they could be made on Earth. Anyway, people know that already.
Right.
A lot of people. So I don't think it's a huge leap to tell the American public what they already know. That there are objects there that nobody knows, what they are. They don't know where they come from. They don't know if they're intelligently controlled. They don't know why they're here, what message they're bringing, if any. None of those questions have been answered. But it's enough to say, and if I were advising the Pentagon press office, I'd say you got to tell the American people that we don't know what these things are, but they're real. And we've been studying them for a long time, secretly, while not admitting it. And we are working very hard to gather more information, as are the Russians and the Chinese and everybody else. Every sophisticated country on Earth is pursuing this for their own defense and their own technological, breakthroughs. They want this technology. Obviously, if we could figure out, new sources of energy and aerodynamics and ways to power, hypersonic flight to cloak craft with invisibility, we would do it. So that's what the government should say. We don't know what these things are. We'd love to find out. We're working like hell to find out what they are. And as soon as we do find out, as much as we can tell you within, defense security parameters, we will.
Right.
So yeah. That's what I would say.
Well, there's two things real quick. The first is we have a $5 donation from Dave Schultz, and he says, Mr. Blumenthal, I'm not saying they're aliens, but they're aliens. So, I think that would be a hell of a press release if that was the case.
Also, it's important that the government and nobody else, including journalists, get ahead of what we know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation on the internet, and that's fine. People can speculate and theorize and hypothesize. But if you're talking to, if you're with the mainstream media or you're with the government, you really have to stick to what you know and can prove. So
right.
Basically what I said is what they can prove, that they're not earthly technology, but other than that, we don't know. So, why spend time speculating?
Right.
Feel wrong.
Ralph, you've got a storied history with the New York Times, and I just wanted to make sure folks know you're not here on behalf of the New York Times. You're here on behalf of yourself, and you can't speak for the New York Times.
Absolutely not.
That being said, if you were still in the media or tracking this story, where would you be putting your focus right now? Who would you be researching? Who would you be talking to? What would be your focus in trying to get more information about this UAP UFO story out to the public?
Well, first of all, I am still tracking it. I'm a contributor to the Times. I've contributed a bunch of articles since 2017. I left in 2009. I left the reporting staff, but I'm still a contributor. I've written a bunch of articles for the Times, including
Nope.
Leslie came and looking for any. There's still their daily incidents. As Ryan Graves, pilot, said on 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago, they're daily incidents, daily encounters that aircraft carriers, pilots are having with these unidentified objects. So, the more we can find out about that, there's a lot of information that the government has collected that has not been made public. We put out 3 videos, Navy videos, pieces of Navy videos, which caused a sensation. It was the most watched thing, in a long time at the New York Times. And it's the thing that people put up now when they want to show, these are what the objects, look like when they're recorded. So those are very famous videos, but those are only 3 videos. There's many, many more. There are longer segments of those videos which have not been made public. There's a lot of stuff that's classified, which we never even got to, which we never probably will get to because it's classified. And everything we dealt with at the Times has been unclassified. And I'll make that clear. Now, we did not leak any classified information.
Right.
So I would be chasing, all the stuff that's out there that is legitimately in the public domain. The taxpayers pay for it. American people and people all over the world are the ones going to be affected by this phenomenon, whatever it is. So they deserve to know what it is. So that's what I would, what I would be and what I am chasing.
So let me ask you this then, because it seems like the reason why we're not getting a lot of hard data along with these videos is because they're pretty fresh. The material within these videos and radar tracking techniques, they're all still pretty classified. Some of them are still used today. Is there any value in, say, going back, I don't know, to the 80s, 70s, and seeing what kind of data was collected there that can be unearthed, that maybe the government can't pull the excuse of, well, that's classified, we can't talk about that?
That's an interesting question. Well, it's true that there are certainly photographs from, many decades ago.
Right.
Some of them are very good.
And also pilots and a lot of really credible folks that I think kind of get overlooked in this new era because we're so excited about Alex Dietrich and Fravor and Lou and Leslie Kane. I mean, these are all this tip of the spear in this new era of ufology, if we even want to call it that. But I feel like we're missing out, like we're missing a golden opportunity, maybe as journalists, and I'm not a journalist, but as news entities. Hey, you guys say there's sensitive information. This guy says that there's been decades of this stuff going on. Why can't we get the stuff from the decades that we don't use anymore? The radar's information that we don't use anymore. I think that would be insanely valuable, and that's stuff we could talk about because it's not sensitive.
That's a good question. I mean, the newer stuff is much better. The pilots,
of course.
started getting much better imaging when they switched to a new, FLIR system, the thermal imaging system. So that's when the stuff started really coming clear, and new radar technology, et cetera. But that's not to say that the old technology didn't pick up some great stuff. So I think it's a good point you're making that they can't claim that this stuff is as highly classified as the new stuff because it's older technology. Certainly the accounts of people, the anecdotal accounts, a lot of which I got into my John Mack book, are very valuable because these accounts go back decades and they are so consistent and they're so rich and detailed that they're definitely worth studying. And I want to say that the so-called skeptics out there who are very good at debunking this and saying, oh, these people are crazy, or it's reflections, or all this kind of stuff, they are not doing their homework. If you want to be a skeptic, you've got to read the literature, and there's a ton of it out there. And you have to read the accounts. And, I start my book with a story of a conference that took place at MIT in 1992. It was a conference called Alien Discussions. It was about alien encounters, okay? And they attracted atomic scientists, folklorists, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, theologians, people from a wide spectrum of professional disciplines. And they were all grappling with this real mystery of what the hell these experiences were, okay? And then they put out 2 years later a big, thick volume of their transcripts of their discussions. So it's not enough to be a skeptic and say, these people are crazy. They're looking for publicity, or they had sleep, sleep apnea or sleep paralysis. And then, John Mack showed that it was not only happening at night. It was not a nightmare. It happened in the daytime. It happened to kids 2 years old, so they weren't reading books and seeing movies. So anyway, if you're going to be a skeptic, do the work, read the material, and then find ways to explain, if you can, and I don't think you can, explain all these very weird phenomena.
Yeah,
so that's my complaint with the so-called skeptics. Not that they don't have a right to be skeptical, because they keep everybody honest. I mean, they keep scientists focused on what they're really looking for. But the people who just debunk without knowing anything and say, people are crazy, those are people who are really doing damage.
I feel like you hit the nail right on the head there, because there's a difference between a skeptic and a debunker. A debunker has an agenda. Their goal is to debunk, whereas a skeptic, their goal is to keep us honest, right? And so I think having that distinction is super important because there is so much going on here. Just to cherry pick individual pieces of data to fit your narrative, that's debunking. That's not scientific.
Right.
Skepticism is scientific. So I really
Right.
appreciate you making that distinction.
Because, this phenomenon is so implausible, if not impossible, in our reality, that it's good to be skeptical. You want to be shown, you want someone to poke holes in it because it helps you. The trouble is John Mack never found anybody with a plausible scenario other than what the people said had happened to them happened somehow on some level. It was impossible, and yet it seemed absolutely real to them, and it carried the weight of reality for so many reasons that we can get into. So nobody came up with anything close to explaining this. So the problem, John Mack always said, and every good scientist or journalist would say, you give me a good explanation and I'll buy it. I'm not wedded to this, but so far, it has eluded all explanation.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your book here. Very excited. We've got a lot of folks in the chat who have already read it. But for those who haven't, can you give us a little idea about the history of John Mack and maybe like the most interesting thing you came across in your research about John Mack?
Yeah, he was a very interesting guy. I mean, he was a esteemed member of the Harvard psychiatry faculty. And he grew up in a German Jewish secular home without any, religion or superstition or spiritual stuff. And his parents, his father, and then his mother died when he was very young, which was a big factor in his growing up. She died of appendicitis when he was 8.5 months old. And his stepmother was also a professor. So he grew up in a very well-grounded home. He wrote this Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of P.E. Lawrence of Arabia. So he became ipso facto an expert on the Middle East. And he went to the Middle East to try to, further peace talks between the Arabs and the Palestinians and Israelis. He met with Arafat. He got very interested in banning nuclear weapons because he saw it was a big danger to the human race as a physician. So he went out to protest nuclear weapons in Nevada, and he got arrested with his family. So far, everything very earthbound and grounded. But then he went out to Esalen, which is that great, psychic think tank on the Pacific, and he learned about something called holotropic breathing, where you can change your state of consciousness by breathing, like drugs, except no drugs. But he did take drugs at other points. But anyway, he did this without drugs. And he, regressed himself back to the womb, and he, remembered possibly a previous life. Anyway, he had all these strange experiences, and that woke him up to the idea that there were other realities out there, not just what he'd been trained and grown up to believe, the four corners of our world, but there was something else going on that sort of woke him up. And then he met a guy named Bud Hopkins, who was an artist, who was very interested in the whole alien encounter phenomenon and had done his own research before John Mack ever got involved. And he showed John Mack some letters from people, and Mack was blown away. He just, in his world of psychiatry, he never could believe that there were people who had, or believed they had, encounters with alien beings, and they remembered them with such a degree of authenticity that it convinced him. And there were other little bits of evidence too. They had scars they didn't remember, and sometimes corroboration from other people who found them absent when they thought they had been abducted, and things like that. Little children who remembered these things who couldn't be reading books. So that's how he got into it. And he threw himself into it, even though it jeopardized his career at Harvard. He got into trouble at Harvard. They investigated him for his scientific methods. In the end, they found that he had done nothing wrong, and they exonerated him after it cost him thousands of dollars in legal fees. And to bring the story full circle, he then went on to look into other anomalous things like crop circles and eventually life after death, survival of consciousness. So he became a very inquisitive scientist, you could say, in spiritual matters. So that's his story, and it was courageous because there was no one risking their career like he did. And he was very confident about that, and he didn't seem to care. So that was very brave of him.
So real quick, so we're hitting about the halfway point of the interview. We got Jazz Shaw waiting backstage. So let's go ahead and Michael, if you could introduce Jazz Shaw and also reset the room, and let's remind folks what's happening on Singularity Lab on Thursday and then Daniel Otis on Friday.
Yeah, I'd love to. So for those of you just joining us, we've got Ralph Blumenthal here. He's written for the New York Times from 1964 to 2009. He still freelances for the New York Times, and he's just recently wrote the new book, The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack. So just amazing to talk to you. We've also got Jazz Shaw, who is a reporter for Salem and the Debrief, and he is ex-Navy and has an extraordinary amount of knowledge on this UAP and UFO issue. Welcome, Jazz.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure to be back. And Ralph, total pleasure. Got to say, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you. Great to see you again.
Yeah, fantastic, and welcome. And then I know you got to hop out here in a second, Luis. And
about 5 minutes.
Okay, great. So, Jazz, did you have a question specifically you wanted to ask Ralph to get us started on this last?
Well, yeah, just to kick it off, I've been following the whole thing, of course. You've been touching on a lot of great subjects, but Ralph, one thing I wanted to touch on with you is you can have a lot of civilian testimony. You can have all the work from the private sector that you've detailed so very well, but there's a large part of the country that still is waiting for some reason, even though the government has clearly lied to us many times over the years. They want to hear that government confirmation, and for some reason that's a big element that's in play right now. And I wanted to ask you specifically, just this weekend, we got some revelations from John Greenwald. A lot of people have been covering this, that apparently, if the reports are true and they came through FOIA requests, that the Pentagon went and took all of Luis Elizondo's emails and deleted them at some point. And now they're gone and they're no longer accessible by FOIA. So putting that in context of the things you've written about, and I guess I'll just lay the question out for you. Is there any reason to think that, as some people would say, well, the government would never lie to us. They wouldn't deceive us or anything. Do you think they really would have deleted all of Luis Elizondo's emails? And if you think that's within the realm of probability, and I'm not going to poison the pond by giving you my opinion, what do we take away as we're waiting for the June 25th report, assuming we get it? If they would go to that extent, do you think they would? And what does that say about the conversation that's going on right now?
Well, yeah, those are a lot of questions, but let's unpack them.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm trying to just put it all in context.
Okay, that's a lot to deal with, but it's good. First of all, would the government ever lie to us? In a word, yes. I'll only say one word: MK Ultra. MK Ultra was a super secret CIA program that gave drugs to unsuspecting Americans. It was a heinous, horrendous program. It sounds like some conspiracy nut would come up with this. And it's not true, but it was true. It was investigated by a congressional committee, and it was horrible. And a lot of it didn't come out, and those records were destroyed, by the way. Those MK Ultra records of people who were subject to these heinous mind experiments, mind control experiments with drugs, etc. So, would the government destroy records? Of course. Some records supposedly were destroyed from Roswell. Whether they are gone for good is an interesting question, which there may be more to that. But anyway, so why they're attacking Lou Elizondo is another question. We have vetted him very carefully before we relied on him as a top-notch source for our December 2017 article. We never would have relied on him and quoted him to the extent we did and made a big deal of his resignation if we did not if we were not fully convinced that he was the real thing, that he was who he said he was. He had an ATIP. He had an intelligence background. He had great commendations, his record, which we've seen, performance evaluations, etc. Why the government is now, or some people in the government, let's say, are trying to destroy his reputation or undermine his credibility. I don't know. He might have rubbed people the wrong way after he resigned and took a lead position on this. You can speculate all the reasons, but he is entirely credible in my view. Whether they destroyed his emails, I don't know. That was reported. Whether he has any of those emails himself is another question. There are usually multiple copies floating around. Whether they have the right to destroy that is another question. I mean, if he was working on a government computer, perhaps the material belongs to the government and they have the right to destroy it. I don't know. I have not looked into that question. I would find it strange that any record of a serious investigation into, UFOs or UAP would be destroyed. So that's as much as I know about that.
I'm going to say real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Rather, because he's going to hop in here. Hey, Rather, sorry to surprise you with that. I'm going to hop out here in a minute, but I wanted to just say thank you, Ralph, for joining us today. If I don't get to say that before I get back and you're gone, I'm so happy that you got to stop by, and I can't wait to watch what you guys talk about when I come back. So with all of that, I'm going to go ahead and step out, you guys. Thank you, Jazz, for stepping up and helping us out. Gosh, I was going to ask Ralph something, but it just slipped my brain. But that's okay. You guys can hold the fort down. And again, thank you.
Thanks,
that's okay. I got more questions for him. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm sure. I have a feeling you do. All right, boys. I'll see you in a bit.
All right.
I was afraid of that.
And by the way, thank you, Lisa, for the $20 super sticker. Mwah! We love it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I know, Jazz, go ahead if you've got another question that you want to ask right now. And I know, Rather, we've got a question in the super chat we want to get to. So maybe if Jazz, you could ask your question, and then we could go to Rather.
Yeah, Ralph, you mentioned the thing about the government lying, and I wasn't trying to imply that I thought that the government was sacrosanct and never lies. I would bring up the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, where they successfully lied for half a century. Well, they were just letting black people die while they were giving them fake drugs. So no, I wasn't implying that they are
I got that.
guardians of the truth. But circling back to that, if we take that as the baseline, we're waiting for a report to come out, and you know more about Lou Elizondo than I do, or most people than I would know. He's always struck me as somebody who would really have nothing to gain by lying about this. I mean, he's essentially, as far as I can tell, ended his career. He's under attack by the people he used to work for, and there are people just trying to undermine him. But if I can ask you to sit in the skeptic seat for a minute, what do we say to the people who are like, well, this is all a conspiracy. They're trying to cover up the fact that we have hidden UFOs, and this is all a some sort of psyop. You hear that a lot these days.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard these psyop rumors? And you put yourself in the skeptic seat. I mean, is there any reason to think that this is all garbage, and we're going to find out 50 years from now that it was once again something entirely different than it looks like today?
Well, look, it's impossible to prove a negative, and anything is possible. But
Sure.
Look at it this way. A lot of the information that we at the Times have reported, and other media, mainstream media particularly, have reported, is not just from the government. It's from people like Dave Fravor and Alex Dietrich, and pilots, and the guys aboard the Princeton and the Nimitz and the Roosevelt, both the Navy crew, the pilots themselves. So Ryan Graves, the pilot who saw the spear inside the box inside the sphere. So these are trained observers, the most highly trained observers we have in our country. The benefit of millions and millions of dollars of training, and we send them up with billions of dollars of equipment. and then we say don't believe them because they're not telling the truth. So I think they come with a high degree of credibility. Plus, they have the courage to speak out about this when it in many cases jeopardizes their military career. Now, some of them are out, so they have a little more of a cushion and comfort factor in speaking publicly, but others are still in. So they face possible sanctions for speaking out, and yet they're doing it. So it's not just like we're taking the government's word on everything. We're taking the word of individual pilots. And again, at the New York Times, we didn't quote anonymous sources. We put names on those.
Yes, you did.
Interviews. So you know exactly where the information is coming from, and we don't hide behind any pseudonyms or anonymous sources. So I think that answers the question that even if the government had its own agenda, and we don't know what this report is going to say and how complete it's going to be. We don't know anything about it, if it's going to be on time, how much is going to be classified. But we don't have to take the government's word for it. I mean, we have other accounts so far on the record, and I'm sure there'll be more. Stuff is coming out all the time. I mean, new videos have surfaced just in the last few weeks of stuff that the Pentagon later authenticated and said, yeah, these are legitimate videos. They were leaked by somebody on the one of the ships. But I was actually frankly surprised that the Pentagon would authenticate them and say that they were legitimate. So, it's pretty hard to put this genie back in the bottle. A lot of information is coming out. And I think the government would be extremely foolish to try to put out some kind of a fake flag story if they wanted to. Or,
that's a really interesting question, Jazz, and a really great context, Ralph. I'm super curious because you do hear this idea of psyops a lot. So it would be one thing, it'd be because we can all agree that we know the government lies, right? We know that there's a fact that we can see it in the Pentagon Papers. We've seen it in, you guys have named two other very important times when that has happened. But, obviously we have the political realm of lies and then we have the Pentagon realm of lies, which are two different kind of spaces. And this idea that you could coordinate an Elizondo, a Ryan Graves, an Alex Dietrich, a David Fravor, all to be speaking from this same PSYOP perspective, it just seems like a stretch to me. And I know that the government can keep secrets, but are they good at coordinating major lies like this across multiple people and spectrums? That seems like a stretch to me. Have you ever seen anything like this where they have been able to effectively do that, Ralph?
I have not. And, as I said, again, it's impossible to prove a negative. So you can say, well, how do you know that the government didn't send out Fravor with this story, and Alex Dietrich, and Ryan Graves, and Danny O'Coin, and all the others who come forward, that they were all recruited and brainwashed or put into some program? You can't prove. I mean, of course it's a negative. You can't prove it's not, but it's so unlikely. And I tell you, my whole career at the New York Times, 45 years. I have emerged as not a believer in conspiracies because I know how hard it is to keep secrets. I know how difficult it is to coordinate stories to the extent that everybody would tell the same story and the truth wouldn't leak out. It's not human nature. It just has not happened in my experience. So, has the government put out false stories? Yes. Have people lied? Yes. But a vast conspiracy where everybody coming forward now is telling, just the story that somebody wants them to tell. That's pretty far-fetched.
I appreciate that. That's really important. Rather, you had a super chat you wanted to hit?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about these modern incidences. Zofa asked a very interesting question, kind of bringing it way back. They ask, does Mr. Blumenthal know why there are people in the government that are ignoring the reports from ancient Rome of flying shields and fighting flaming spears in the sky? And maybe if you're not aware of those, just are you aware of any ancient reports that you find interesting and maybe governments are investigating? And if they aren't investigating these things, why not?
Well, wait a minute. Folklore and ancient annals are full of these accounts. I mean, they are replete in every culture, from the Mayans to the Indians in India. The ancient people of every culture have this history. The Anglo-Saxons saw these shields in the sky. The colonialists saw flaming galleons in the sky. So there is a rich history of this, which Jacques Vallée actually wrote about to a great extent, and he's one of the leading scholars of the whole UFO phenomenon. There's a painting, I was just referencing this the other day, there's a painting from, I believe, the 1400s that shows the Virgin Mary with looks like a UFO in the background. And you look at it closely and say, my God, that is weird. There is no doubt that the culture of world culture, many countries, including in Africa, stories about little star creatures, etc. Every culture has some history of things in the sky, in the Bible, the chariots, etc., or little people, or gods descending to earth. It comes in so many different forms. Now, can you investigate that? I don't think so. Not today, you can't. You can investigate contemporary accounts of sightings, which MUFON does, but to go back and say, what happened in the 13th or 14th century, in the sky, how could you begin to? It's all anecdotal, but there's no doubt that these accounts exist, and the fact that there are so many of the accounts, and that they cross every culture, every country, every civilization, is really interesting, and the folklorists have really taken that to a considerable extent to say there is a long history of these strange sightings. So definitely, again, the skeptics need to inform themselves on this aspect of literature, and it's a huge archive of this.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there's so much debate as to whether or not when you look back throughout history and look at the accounts, are they the imaginations of people, or are they describing literal things in the sky? And you can go all the way back to the Vedic traditions, the Upanishads. These, they were describing in ancient India, they were describing wars in the skies of technologically advanced species. It's fascinating.
Well, what's interesting, and John Mack really dealt with this, is that you're not only dealing with one person's account. When you look in the Bible, okay, Ezekiel talks about the flaming wheel. That's what maybe one person wrote that into the Bible. But other accounts throughout history have been multiple witness accounts, like the sightings at Fatima, for example. Thousands of people saw this, this vision. And Diana Pasulka wrote about it in her excellent book, American Cosmic. She's a religion scholar. And she's dealt with this phenomenon from a religious point of view, saying that there were, religious sightings that were viewed by many, many people, and they crossed over into the religious realm, and they were dismissed as, well, these are religious sightings. But John Mack said that they are related, that these anomalous experiences are related to alien abduction and crop circles and all the other anomalous things that we have no explanation for. It's another dimension somehow penetrating our dimension in ways we don't understand, a different way of looking at reality. So so there are ways to investigate it today based on multiple accounts.
I have one question.
Yeah, Jazz, go right ahead.
That I've only had a chance to discuss this with a couple of people who are as deep into this as Ralph, and I'm just dying to get Ralph's take on this. If we assume for a moment that it's possible, even with all the things we've seen, that some of these objects that have been cited, the performance we've seen, if it turned out that it was ours, somebody had made some huge breakthrough, however, or alternately that it was the Chinese, the Russians, whoever, I can absolutely see why there would be a basis for the government to say, oh, we don't want to talk about this because you don't want to reveal your hand to your adversaries, and you don't want your adversaries to know that, well, we didn't know you had that. So I get that. But let's just, and it's still hypothetical at this point, and Ralph acknowledged this earlier, let's just say we eliminate all those. And it is something otherworldly, other dimensional, the list goes on, time travelers, whatever. But it's not part of the playing pieces on the game board currently that we're dealing with. Do you have, whether you want to take the skeptic seat or the believer seat, whatever, is there a rationale to say, if the government knows this is something unknown, that's not our adversaries, that's not us, is there a national security reason to say that knowledge should be kept from the public? And I mean, is there any reason to not come out and go, I'm sorry, we already figured it out. It's not the Russians, it's not the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans, it's not us. It could be from somewhere else or some other dimension. Is that dangerous knowledge? Do you think the government has a justification? Can you think of any justification for them to say, we should keep this hidden because you guys, we don't want you to know this? Is there a justification for that?
I find it very difficult to accept a justification for that. I mean, the next question would be, how does the government know? And if you would press them and they say, well, we have the super secret technology that measures, the physical, composition of UFOs, and that's how we know they're not of this earth. That might be, again, hypothetically, a national security question that we can't tell you how we know they're off planet because of some technology we have. Now, that
Fair
might
point.
be something that they would be reluctant to discuss, but they're not saying that. They're only saying that these things possess, aerodynamic, potential or possibility or aerodynamic, whatever word I'm reaching for, capabilities that are not known to exist on Earth. So if they say that, you're not giving away anything. You're not, giving away any secrets to the enemy. You're not saying how we know that. We just know that we've not been able to explain their aerodynamic capabilities, which we're not. They go from 80,000 feet to 20,000 feet in a second, operate underwater. They appear and disappear. They have no visible means of propulsion, no jet trail, no wings, no sound, no rivets. It's not hard to say that's why we can't explain them. But I don't think that's a big, would tip off any enemy in a secret way, because first of all, I think the Russians, Chinese are coming to the same conclusion. And what little we know of their research, they are puzzled by the same things.
Don't you guys think that justification depends on, is subjective based on the role that government is supposed to play based on a perspective, right? So I'm sure the Pentagon has a very different perspective than the White House on what the role of government is, right? So the role of the Pentagon is to protect Americans. And if we can't tell the American people directly and honestly that we can protect them from this technology that we don't understand, couldn't you see a justification for them to try to shield this from public view? I don't agree with that, but can't you see that as a potential justification?
Yeah, they know that already, Mike.
Right.
It's not a big secret like, hey, we can't protect you from these things because we don't know what they are.
But if they admit to it, then they have to admit to that. And right now, if you don't admit to it, you don't have to admit to that.
Well, there are people in the government who are very conservative. And first of all, there are some people we know who don't want to touch UFOs at all because they think they're demonic. Okay.
Right.
And so they don't want to study them. They don't want to hear about them. They don't want to touch them in any way, shape, or form in terms of studying them. So that's not a very enlightened approach, in my view. But I think, you're not telling the American people anything they don't know. If you tell them, hey, we don't know what these things are, so we can't really protect you. First of all, they have not been aggressive. They have not been aggressive. They have flown over missile sites by accounts of, missile operators. They have deactivated missile technology. Again, these are accounts from, missile technicians in the military who say that they were there when the UFO appeared and the missile, weaponry was turned off in some way, disabled, and then they disappeared and it was turned back on. So that's kind of dangerous. But no one has come forward with a story that these things are, like the movie, the day the Earth stood still, or attacked Earth and kidnapped people in broad daylight out of the cities and devastated buildings. They're not doing that for whatever reason, So the government doesn't have to say, that we are in a terrible danger now. We're protecting you from knowing how terrible it is, because that's ridiculous. That has no sign of that.
Well, Ralph just stole half of the last question that I had for him. With the whole demon thing, Lou Elizondo has said in numerous interviews that he ran up against people who didn't want to cooperate because they didn't want to talk about alien technology or any other technology. They were like, this is just demons, and they didn't want to cooperate. But once again, playing devil's advocate, which I just realized when the words came out of my mouth was the worst possible phrase to say, Ralph. Is there any argument for the government to say, well, we are a nation that's founded on faith and we have it in the First Amendment, and we shouldn't release information that could shake people's faith and make them question their fundamental First Amendment religious beliefs? I know I'm really stretching here and I'm not buying it myself. But is that something that you've considered? I mean, is that something that you've analyzed and given any thought to? Like, maybe this could be dangerous?
I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I'm going to say that these things could as easily as they could be demonic, they could be godly. And, John Mack heard from his experiencers that they were getting messages, telepathic messages from these beings, that humans had to take better care of the planet, that they had a responsibility to, be better stewards of the environment, to avoid blowing ourselves up with nuclear weapons, to be aware of the great love in the cosmos, that it's a benign, loving universe. These beings are, so you could take it the other way and say these beings have sent messages, that are positive and not negative. They want to do good. They want to fight pollution, save the planet. Tell people to take better care. Don't eat animals. Take better care of yourselves. So
you just lost me.
That's the other side of it. Okay.
Well, I'm just eating animals. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, no, I just wanted to quickly point out, and I think since you did bring up the First Amendment, I mean, the First Amendment specifically is about creating no law that disrespects an established religion or prohibits the free exercise thereof. So if the Pentagon or the White House admitted these things were there, there's no law in place. There's nothing that would, constitute any sort of, unconstitutionality of admitting such beings exist, right?
Right. No, they're not requiring any particular worship of
now, if we said you have to worship these things and pass that into law, now we got problems.
Yep.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Ralph, I know we've only got a couple minutes left here with you, but I'd love to hear any final thoughts you have on your book, where people can find it.
Yes.
If there's anything interesting that you think people should know about John Mack's life before they go buy that book, I'd love for you to share it.
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, it's widely available. If you can get it at an independent bookstore, please do, because they need all the help they can get. And if they don't have it in stock, they will get it for you. Amazon, of course, has it, and Kindle has it. You can get it instantly if you don't want to wait for it to ship to you in a few days. You can have it instantly on your Kindle and read it right away. And there's an audio book in the works, so you'll be able to listen to it on your car, or et cetera. So there's many ways to get it. And all I will say is that, I take pains throughout the book not to give my own opinion of John Mack, to talk about how he operated, with all his flaws, and he had some. He was very naive. He was careless about the way he spoke to the media. He jumped to some conclusions. He was naive. He was overpassionate. He had all these flaws as a human being. But at the end of the book, I say, I do find him a hero, in the sense that Joseph Campbell said a hero is somebody who sets out on a mission that they don't want to undertake. They're reluctant because they, like Jonah in the Bible, didn't want to go on God's mission, but he went anyway, got swallowed up by the whale. And John Mack went out, jeopardized his career. He was courageous, stuck with it. had many adventures, just like Joe Campbell's hero, life-threatening adventures in some cases. He got very sick in the Amazon jungle with malaria or whatever he encountered there. But he went to a lot of strange places to research the alien phenomenon. And then he came back with a gift, a boon for mankind, which was the knowledge that he gained. And brought it back to the digital firelight, just like the heroes of old would come back to the campfire and relate their experiences. So in that sense, I think he's a hero. And I say I give humanity a pat on the back because we are the ones studying the aliens, if indeed they're alien. I mean, they're studying us, but John Mack was studying them. So we, poor humans with our primitive technology, are trying to study these extremely advanced beings, if that's what they are, and that's pretty laudable. So I say, good for us, good for humanity. That's my view of John Mack, that with all his flaws, he was a laudable guy.
That's fantastic. James McDonald sent us $20 and said, ufology is like a huge jigsaw puzzle, and Ralph is a crucial border piece that ensures the puzzle isn't complete without his hard work and dedication, and it is very much appreciated. Ralph, just what a pleasure it is to spend time with you. I mean, I could sit here and listen. Yeah, I could listen to you all day long.
Can I just say my thanks, by the way?
No, go ahead.
Anytime you get to talk to Ralph Blumenthal, one of the smartest people you're ever going to talk to, whether it's this subject or many others. And if I can just chime in, and I'm not trying to be a fanboy, where we are right now in the progression towards potential disclosure, none of that would have happened, I firmly believe, if it wasn't for December of 2017. And it was you and your colleagues who kicked this off and took it out of the back pages, out of the comic books, and brought it into the national forefront of serious discussion. And if it hadn't been for you guys, I don't think Lou Elizondo ever would have gotten where he is right now. I don't think we'd be having these conversations. So thank you very much, Ralph.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you. I really appreciate your great questions and the opportunity to connect with your many listeners. So thank you.
Yeah, and in addition to that, it's so difficult, even today, folks who are in this chat and who are out there who are trying to breach this conversation with folks who aren't familiar with it, often feel that sense of almost shame of even bringing it up, of feeling so out of place. And you, Ralph, have given them a reason not to feel that way. And the more we talk about this every single day, the more momentum we have behind it. And again, it is thanks to you. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, without you, Ralph, we'd be nowhere.
There he is.
I totally agree. Thank you, Ralph.
More credit than I deserve.
Oh man, was that it? Was that Ralph's final thing that I just walked in on?
It is.
Okay, awesome. All right, Ralph. Well, dude, please come back because I know I've got some more questions that I didn't get to ask today. So anytime you want to come back, the door is wide open for you, sir. Because your journalistic perspective is valuable in these days.
Love to do it. Great audience. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much,
sir.
Ralph.
Wow, that was fun. All right, so Jazz, I know also you've got to go too. You had a hard out right at 8:00, correct?
Yep, I'm right up against the wall right now, but I want to thank you guys for, we had the conversation. I wasn't even going to be here, but getting to talk to Ralph was an amazing pleasure, and he's just such a, in my opinion, key figure in the ongoing discussion about disclosure and everything. And we've spoken before, but getting to really get in depth with him this time, I thought that was a tremendous opportunity. And again, he's out, but I'm so grateful to Ralph for, giving us the time.
Yeah, well, we're appreciative to you, Jazz, for giving us your valuable time as well. So
and for making sure that Ralph knew about this show and introducing us to him on that platform. So thank you, Jazz.
My pleasure.
Always a connector of people. Thank you, sir. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye. Whoa, what happened? There we go. UFO Jane in the house. What's up, lady? How you doing?
I can't believe I'm following Ralph Blumenthal. Like,
right? It's getting serious around here, Jane.
Yeah.
This show's becoming legit.
Well, hence the tie.
Yeah, I see that. I love it. I love the tie.
You look amazing.
You look way better. You look
Jane.
way better in a tie than any one of us. That is for sure.
100%.
I'm not sure if I've ever worn one before. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind it. It's not.
I'm
too
very
bad.
jealous.
It's not a bad look. I mean, I almost feel like ordering like some food from you. It's almost like a waiter's outfit a little bit. But did you tie that tie yourself?
No.
Okay, all right, that's fair. No, that's
Way
okay.
to put her on the spot.
No, what I didn't put her on the spot. I was just curious.
I love how Lisa says that was our singularity right there. The New York Times article. It was what brought everything into the mainstream, right? Because when I was a kid, I was reading books about UFOs. I was reading books about the Loch Ness monster. Like you brought this up previously, Luis, about whenever they let you loose in the library at school, how you'd always go to that was me too, dude. Like that was where I would hang out when they would let us loose in the school library. But it was never anything more than a fantasy for a lot of us. And so to see it brought into the mainstream by a guy like Ralph Blumenthal, just doing incredible reporting, is a game changer. I know, Rather, you said that was one of that article like set you on fire for the subject too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still remember the day my brother texted me in the morning saying, look at the New York Times, aliens are real. And I read it and I became obsessed. And he really did legitimize the topic for people like me. And when I discuss it with others, it's no longer something that is just on the fringes. You can say, no, the New York Times reported on this. It's a real deal.
So real quick, let's reset the room for this fresh hour because our producer's yelling at us to do so. So real quick, the new lady to the room, Texas UFO researcher Jane Kyle, aka UFO Jane, has documented over 1,000 UFO cases over the years and interviews UFO experts and others for her YouTube show, The Weird UFO Show. Welcome everybody, Miss UFO Jane. Hello. Real quick, also, I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow on Singularity Lab at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be talking about space robots.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Can you elaborate on space robots?
I would love to. So I want to make a distinction here, though. I think it's important. So we're going to be doing a show. We're going to be doing a deep dive on drone technology next week. So I want you guys to be aware of that. But this week, we're going to be focusing on the technology that we're currently using in space, in the skies, that is being developed. All of the things that you want to know about when it comes to what's going on in space from us. We may get into some UAP stuff too, but what are human beings developing to take us to the stars? And so we're going to be digging into all of that tomorrow night on the Singularity Lab. So make sure, if you haven't subscribed to the Singularity, if you're here, first of all, if you're here and you haven't subscribed to this channel, the Unidentified Celebrity Review, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. Please do it. It helps us get our messages out there, right? It helps us get the show out there. But if you're interested in futurism, if you're interested in technology, breaking science, the things that are just flying at us at such a breakneck speed that you can barely keep up, and you want to hear about those topics, and you want to hear about them from a great panel and experts in these fields, all you got to do is click on the link in the description, my link that says Michael Mataluni. Click on that link, and then click on the Singularity Lab and subscribe there. Ring the bell so you can see us there tomorrow at 4 p.m. PST, 7 p.m. EST.
Do me a favor real quick, Rather, if you could find the YouTube link for Pete's channel, Creepy Little Book. I want to put that in the live stream so everyone could go check it out. I love this dude. He's always stopping by the channel, and I keep saying I'm going to get in contact with him, and I'm sorry, Pete. Please forgive me. It's just been insanely busy. But I promise you, I'm gonna get in contact with you here, and then I'm gonna say it again in the next few days, even though I know it could be a week or two. I appreciate it. We've got some stuff to talk about. So everybody go check out his channel, subscribe to his channel, because every time I'm chilling in his chat, listening to him, he's always pushing our show so hard and tells everyone to go subscribe, and really supports and loves the channel and gets what we're doing here on the Unidentified Celebrity Review. So with that said, go check out his stuff. Check out our Patreon if you love what you're seeing. It's a great way to support the channel. Super chats are also great as well, and I see you guys are killing it with that today, so appreciate the love. Every dollar you send our way is another hour I don't have to spend in an Uber, so that's a good thing. Also on Friday, we're going to be talking to Daniel Otis, journalist for Vice magazine, about Canadian UFO incursions. It was a huge article that he just dropped on Vice News magazine. So we're going to be talking to him about that and a bunch of other stuff. So don't miss Friday's show. That is at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So now that that's out of the way, I need to refill my Arizona iced tea.
I'm actually drinking this. I don't know what it's called. It's called Peace Tea, apparently.
Yeah.
So Kristen bought that for me. So I guess that's what I'm going for, is the Peace Tea. I've also heard that Arizona iced tea doesn't spend a lot of money on marketing. So
you know what, man? Well, that's
why.
But then again, that's why it's $1 a can. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's $1 for a big old can. They haven't changed the price since I was a kid, dude. So that's why I love Arizona peach iced tea, among other things. So where do we start? Should we start? We were going to go this Elizondo pledge, Mike, but I think when we talked about it in pre-show, I think you just saw an old tweet.
Yeah, that was an old tweet.
Yeah, it was super old. That was from last year. Okay, so we're going to skip the Elizondo pledge. I wanted to go straight and do another set of tweets because somebody's on. What's that?
The pinned tweet is where he's like, "Why you didn't want to talk about it?"
Yeah. His pledge to everyone. So I wanted to talk about instead, just real quick. Let me bring up my screen here because I've got Jeremy Corbell's Twitter account pulled up, and Jeremy Corbell he was a little upset.
Was he a little upset?
I wouldn't say upset, but he was on fire. Like he was like, listen up.
The fire.
Yeah, no, I dig it. I always love when people get ornery. So he starts the tweet with, "I don't know what we're seeing these days, but it's a monumental paradigm shift with respect to the UFO presence on planet Earth. The UFO phenomenon seems to have been here as long as we have, maybe longer." And then he released this video with.
Can you zoom in on that a bit? Can you?
Yeah.
That's hard to see.
How's that?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Oh wait, we blew up here. Hold on. Let's do this. And let's do this. Hold on. Let me just. Come on, work.
Come on.
Okay, I think that's as far as it goes in. Anyway, all right. So yeah, he released it with this video. This video he's posted before. It's that movie The Network, where it's all about, you tell them you're mad as hell and you're not going to take it anymore. At the end of the movie where he convinces all these people on network television to rage against the machine, essentially. And so then he follows up that tweet with, "What's certain is that we have always and still do occupy the same space as these UFOs. And all throughout human history, this has been observed and documented. So, with recent UFO revelations reaching the tipping point, anything is fucking possible. All explanations are on the table, except for the foolish denials and obviously flawed logic of the irrational, demented, and biased. We're seeing the deterioration of the cosmically rigid who would prefer to believe our world revolves around their own desires rather than our sun. We can no longer avoid an inconvenient UFO reality. Some folks just can't conceive of an intelligence greater than their own self-perception. Please, don't be that person. Refuse the fate. Life is mysterious AF, and you will miss out on more than just UFO truth. Willful ignorance is way out of fashion anyway, and at this point, evidence is shown, and history will prove that this is not the time to maintain the stubborn and ignorant belief of human technological superiority."
There's nothing that he said there that I disagree with. I actually I'm excited. Like it kind of reminds me of one of those moments when you're like you're at the battlefield and you're ready to charge, and he's rallying the troops.
There's one more.
Oh,
I disagree with everything.
The irrational thought that we are isolated here on the planet, surrounded by trillions upon trillions of others, and that we have never been visited by a more technologically advanced neighbor, that's so 1947, baby. Keep it UFO real. UFOs, hashtag UFOs are real, hashtag UFO transparency, final. He was on fire, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I want to hear.
And no
Rather's.
weaponize your curiosity.
No weaponize your curiosity. No high noon. So he's not going to rub anybody the wrong way. I think he's just, to me, that's speaking straight to McWest, and folks in that camp. That to me is what I'm getting from this.
It's speaking straight to them, but it's not going to convince them at all. It's not going to change any minds. It's going to, it's not going to advance.
It's going to make them dig their heels in further. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What I kind of wanted to say was, so I actually like his fieriness and the idea that we're alone in the universe and that it's completely impossible that we're being visited and that these are all psychological phenomenon, and people just cling to that. I think is where his fire comes from, and I actually understand and respect that. What I don't understand is how you can still stick by, what is with the nosebleeds rather. Weapon nosebleeds.
Oh my god, that's funny.
But I still don't know how he sticks by some of his earlier work and has never come out and spoken up about some of the things that have been either false narratives or just that have taken us down to false rabbit holes. And that's where I find, my greatest area of frustration, I guess, with Corbell.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with Corbell about what's going on, but I think that it's undeniable that there is not conclusive evidence that we are being visited by aliens or interdimensional beings. I mean, I think that there's evidence, but there's not undeniable evidence. And for someone like Jeremy to be so convinced that his interpretation of the evidence is correct, and not only to be so convinced it's correct, but to throw people who disagree with him, kind of, saying that.
Well, he didn't throw anyone on the bus. There's no names in here.
Well, no, but he definitely implies that if you don't agree with him, you're not a smart individual, which I don't agree with at all. I think that you can have a different interpretation of what's going on, and it's a valid thing. We should be having productive conversations rather than saying, no, you're wrong, I'm right. That's the bottom line.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, because he does say, evidence is shown and history will prove.
Well, this goes back to Michael's point where the evidence that he stood behind is questionable when you go back to the Lazar documentary. And so when he, has that same confidence about this stuff, it doesn't hold much weight to me. I need to see the evidence. And, I think personally that Corbell probably has seen a lot of stuff that we haven't seen that probably makes him that convinced. Right. But he has to understand that we haven't seen that, and we need to be similarly convinced to not have people like McWest give their narrative.
I think that's fair, dude. I think that's a fair comment. Like Jane, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say that I would agree that Jeremy's probably has seen a lot more than he's been able to share with us so far. Probably years ago, I remember we had this. Well, we still have this podcast just on a break called Weird Hollywood, where we talk about weird movies and the real inspiration behind it. Mm-hmm. And we were inspired to talk about The Abyss because of something Jeremy had said or hinted at with James Cameron potentially being aware of, let's just think about some of the recent evidence we've been seeing. The UFO swarming Navy ships and the object splashing into the ocean. So I remember, talking to him about that before, a while ago about The Abyss and him kind of hinting, at the depths of that. Right. So I would agree with that. And on the other hand, I think he's just trying to keep our interest, along. He's on this ride with us and just kind of trying to keep our interest the whole time and keep our faith in for sure a specific narrative that everybody should still definitely continue to question no matter
no matter who it is.
Hashtags.
Yeah, I mean, we got to question everyone.
Yes.
Lou Elizondo. I mean, we have to question everyone. I think this is more stemming from. I bet it's frustrating for him if he's, like you said, let's say he's had access to some pretty incredible stuff, which I have a feeling he's had, especially just hanging out with George Knapp. You know, that's a very, very real possibility. But I'm sure it's frustrating as hell for, you know, people been bitching. We want radar. We want radar. We want radar. The dude puts out radar and people are complaining, you know, and I think that's where this is coming from. This is like, he's it feels like he's frustrated. And maybe if you don't know where this frustration is stemming from, it hits you as if, oh, well, this is his reality, so that means I have to agree with this reality. And if I don't, I'm the jerk in this situation. You know, like I could see how someone could perceive it that way.
Anytime anyone gives you an ultimatum that you have to believe this or else you're stupid or wrong or ignorant or fill in the adjective, that's wrong. You can't do that and expect people to, you know, and expect people not to call you a charlatan. It's dangerous. That sort of weaponization is dangerous. And I respect Jeremy a lot. I really do. But I just don't think that's the right way to be going about this, because it creates this excessive division that doesn't allow us to have a rational conversation.
Well, let's ask this. What is the right way? Like how does let's say he's got that radar footage. How would let's start with Jane. How would you have released that footage?
I know that I couldn't have released it as well as Jeremy. So he invited me out to go to the Area 51 event like years ago. So this was like the storming Area 51 counter. Mm-hmm. So I really was just kind of shadowing him the whole time and just kind of amazed at how much he could do at such like a high level, how much information he could take in. And I don't know. So I think he's very skilled at what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't think I could do a better job than he has with all these latest leaks. But like I said earlier, no matter who I encounter in this UFO field, whether it's Luis or Michael or Rather, I'm always going to continue to think for myself, and I may not always be in lockstep with everything that everybody says, and I'll continue to make whatever YouTube videos or have whatever opinions. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just because I'm a Bob Lazar believer, and I feel like over time it just makes more and more sense to me. Mm-hmm. Jeremy's been one of the less, I guess, controversial people to me, but I don't know. And I don't think that's a bias. I think it just happens to be kind of how I see things so far. Like, I happen to agree the Tic Tac and gimbal footage is compelling and the radar evidence is so far he hasn't lost me in the narrative, but at any moment, you know, he could come out with some footage that is just obviously fake, that even I'm agreeing with Mick West about. Like, that could happen. So
right. Rather, what do you think? How would you release it if you could do it?
This might be a controversial opinion, but I think that all of his releases added nothing to the UFO community. I think it built up his brand a ton and added him to the discussion a ton. But personally, if I had that information and I wanted to, any of the UFO report is actually coming out in a month, just weeks away, why release it at all? Why preempt this awesome, crazy report that's going to be released? Keep on to that stuff. If they don't release it, if they lie about it, you have that in your pocket to correct them and, you know, show them. But I think that this only detracts from the upcoming report, these leaks.
Well, just FYI, he did hold on to it for, I think, 2 years.
And so why now, though? So why that even further adds to the
why now
skepticism of me that he has good intent for releasing
well, maybe because if I'm not mistaken, it's because it took him that long to verify it.
Maybe.
You know, like, I mean, we just heard about John Greenwald taking 3 years to verify that Elizondo's emails were being erased. And maybe the build-up to this report has opened up the DOD to go, okay, yes, Corbell, those are real. And now that gives him the permission to release it.
And that could be, but still, why? I don't think that it adds anything by releasing it weeks before the official release.
Right. What about you, Mikey?
So I come from the world of marketing, and in marketing, there's you build things up. You build things up before a release, and the reason you do that is to build your brand. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem if Jeremy wants to build his brand. I disagree slightly. Rather, I don't think there's been nothing of value in his releases. I do think there is value. I think it's gotten the news media really interested in this topic. And I definitely think that if it wasn't for some of his releases and the news media not running with some of these stories, then we might not be getting the reaction and the sense of seriousness from the government. So, I think he's serving himself, and I think he's serving the topic simultaneously.
Yeah, I think I was being too harsh saying there's no value. I think that he definitely does he whips up enthusiasm within the community, which is very valuable. I think the kind of thing that weighs on my mind is that I feel like, and if this is a coordinated marketing effort with the people behind the UAP task force, then bravo, I think this is awesome. But I fear that maybe he's leaking stuff from the identified portion of the UAP task force report, in which case I think all of this media hype could backfire tremendously. And I hope that doesn't happen, but that's kind of one of the fears I have.
Yeah, I understand that.
Man, that was some really great points by all of you guys.
That's why you got us here.
No, right? I know. That's partly.
Yeah. Partly. And we're also real pretty.
Yeah, that's it too. And those ties don't hurt. Man, I'm kind of right in the middle of the road between all of you guys. I feel, on one hand, you're right, Michael. It definitely is a great marketing ploy. He's got a playbook and it works. It works. He scores touchdowns with this playbook all the time, and it drives traffic to him and George, and deserved. You guys work your ass off. Yeah. To be I don't know if I'd be patient enough to wait 2 years on anything that someone would give me. I'd be like, especially if it looked cool and I couldn't explain it.
I don't mind if somebody makes money doing what they love to do and what they're passionate about, and they're doing a service. You should be able to do that,
just as long as it doesn't, leak into, I don't know, like a Scientology realm, or
right,
a Stephen Greer realm, or cultish,
right.
Where it's like, no deferring opinions can be thrown on the table.
Yes, that's a huge problem.
That's the thing, is like, can differing opinions be thrown in front of Jeremy Corbell on a table like that, and him maybe be open? Look, here's the thing. He's never said it's aliens. He's never said it. He's never definitively said
exactly
anything.
What he was saying in that tweet, and
Well, look, but so what? Lou Elizondo does that. Christopher Mellon does that. All of them do that.
And then they go, well.
I mean, it's like the chat that we had earlier, before somebody had said, Mr. Blumenthal is basically saying there's aliens. They're aliens, and yeah, they're aliens. Whatever, however he worded it. It's like, he can't say it, but he's saying it, if that makes sense. So, it's because if he says it, then people like us, the chitter chatters in the world, are going to be like, well, now Jeremy Corbell knows for sure that it's aliens, and he's Mr. Definitive, and it wouldn't look good on him, that's for sure. So I think that's why he avoids giving it a label or a name. But if I had any advice for my friend Jeremy Corbell, okay, it would be, if you're gonna release, especially with as well as connected as you are, if I was gonna release that, and look, maybe I'm speaking out of a place with a lack of knowledge, but I'm just giving my opinion based off what I've seen. So with the information I have, the way I would have done it, and if I had the connections that he had instantaneously, I would have called Kevin Day or any other radar operator that worked in that time to come and be part of that released data. If you're going to release a radar, like, here's the thing that I didn't like. And when he had the conversation with George Knapp about this, he's like, here you go. Here's the radar data. Here's everything. Here's the thing everyone's been asking for. Now it's up to you to figure out what the hell you're looking at. I mean, he literally almost said that. And it was just like, whoa, wait a second. How do you expect me, Joe Schmo, idiot guy, to figure out what I'm looking at on this radar system? I'm depending on you to give me the expertise. And I'm okay with, hey, you're not a radar expert, Jeremy Corbell, but if you can get one on the horn and you can, in that roundtable conversation that I know they know how to do because they do Murderers Row now every month on the show, like bring in Kevin Day and have him add some nuance and like we did with Jazz. Like Jazz was a Navy radar operator in the Cold War, so his expertise was great, but it wouldn't be as good as Kevin Day. Kevin Day could look at that radar and in 2 seconds tell you exactly what's going on, maybe even in the blurred parts. He might be able to give you a hint, or if it's classified, he can say it's classified, I can't talk about it, but at least there's context. There's a depth to the information as opposed to, check out this radar footage. None of you know how to decipher right now on high noon. It was like, I think that's where people... Like, if you don't want the backlash, and I think they did get a lot of backlash on this one, at least for people, like I know Alejandro Road had written something about it, and here we go, we've got Max Moskowitz. Jesus, guys, give the man a chance.
Hold on 1 second, Max. Max, you need to hop in this room because we have said that he has every right to build his brand. We have said that he has every right to do what he's doing.
Maybe he's hopping in late. Max might have hopped in late and maybe didn't catch the first part of it. Okay. But I mean, look, we're saying do it the way that you want to do it. Release it the way you want to. Just if it's going to be something as confusing as radar data, maybe just have some experts along the ride, so that way there's nobody is guessing. And I feel like that's what happened with this latest radar drop is nobody knew how to read radar, so everybody's guessing at what the hell's going on. Like we're looking up pictures of radar displays and taking a guess. Well, it could be a diamond. It could be a diamond with a circle in it. Could be, we have no freaking clue. And if I knew Kevin Day as well as some folks do, I would have had him on day of, and just hell, dude, just help us break this down. Like, what are we looking at here? And I think, and you could still do the marketing. You could still call it whatever you want. You could still make sure you get the watermarks on there. I got no problems with that whatsoever, man. Build your brand, make your money, but just if people are telling you something's wrong with it, don't get upset. Maybe listen. Just listen to what they're saying, and maybe that'll give you a little bit different strategy. And because I know there's more releases coming. He said there is. George and him are sitting on a ton of stuff. Look at Rather Smirk. He's like, look, and then look at Max. Max is like, guys, sources are sensitive. Agreed. We agree. But Kevin Day's not a sensitive source. Right. Kevin Day's a radar expert.
Right. And we're not saying this, ask the source to come on. We're saying bring on a radar expert to explain it to the people. And so again,
what would the radar expert be explaining? Because
what we're looking at.
Open up a whole can of worms though. So the more the radar expert says, the more Jeremy's implying, the more he's putting stakes. So I think it might be smart to put it out there, see what people think, their reaction before you bring the radar expert on to talk about what you think is already going on. So this might be more, it's kind of like when it's like a marketing thing maybe. It's like, like when you're thinking about making a movie and you put the idea out there and you want to see how people react before you come, because they may not know exactly what it is.
But there's a fine line between marketing and manipulating, right? And so if all you're doing is chumming the water,
I'm gonna send Max an invite.
I'm sorry. Get Max's ass in here.
Yeah.
Get him in here.
It's got to be like
UFO
4 in the
Jane.
morning.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's got to be like 4 in the morning there. Yeah, sorry, Jane. Yeah.
No, that's all I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. It's just this idea that, okay, let's just put it out there and chum the water and then see what people think and get them into a frenzy and then, and then we'll make sense of it later. I don't know. I don't
think that's a great strategy.
Something that I didn't like or that I kind of thought was a red flag was that, they confirmed that they got Susan Goff to confirm that the military videos were real, but then he did also have a lot of other context that was put out in those videos. And as far as I know, none of that's confirmed, or there's no real even I know we can't give the source. He does want to protect the source, but at least give us something as to like how you got that information or why you think it's true, because that would add a lot, I believe, if we had those context pieces verified.
Yeah, and we did. We originally brought in Jazz, but like we're looking for more radar specialists. So just so you guys know out there who are listening, like we're looking for astrophysicists. We're looking for we're looking for physicists. We're looking for people who know radar. We're looking for all these people. So if you know people, if you're friends of the show and you know people who have been on these ships and who have expert knowledge of this stuff, please send them our way, because we want to bring them on so that they can decipher this stuff for you all.
Yeah, isn't it kind of crazy that, this happened in 2019 and they're saying that things like this are happening kind of all the time, but we haven't gotten a eyewitness yet. There's how many people on these boats?
But I mean, the eyewitness stuff can be explained, and it's because it happened in 2019. A lot of these people are probably still working under an NDA, still in the military, so it would be awkward. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's 2 years ago now, though. There's got to be a handful of people who are out now.
Well, but think about like tons of witnesses. Well, tons, not thousands. But witnesses report to me all the time saying they have a military background, or they're from the military. Or I mean, I will say usually it's not when they're on duty that they see things, and they report back to me. Right. But it's like I would say, things are happening all the time. I mean, we've been on the ground, like watching it for years, and even before the 2017 article. So but why now, to your question, are people coming forward and being backed up by New York Times and CNN and official in office government representatives and former presidents and such.
Yeah, you make a point. Yeah, that the Nimitz stuff that was actually out there long before people were chattering. People just weren't listening. So maybe that's the case now.
Yeah, I just think adding. I understand what you're saying about the radar. Like, what is he going to add? I'm just saying, if you had a radar expert there when you release the information, and say he can decipher the dots, say he can decipher those blobs and what they could be and what they most likely are, I think that adds a ton of context. But let's say he doesn't add anything like that. At least you could say, well, hey, we tried to have the radar expert guy on, he was there with us. Like, instead of just, I just feel like it's like, it's almost like, I don't know what sort of example you use. It's like, throwing out a puzzle with a bunch of missing pieces and saying, all right, put it together. I'm not even going to, was it a picture of the Eiffel Tower? Is it a picture of, a river? Could you at least tell us what the puzzle is? So that way maybe we can start making sense of it a little easier. And by the way, I sent Max a private invite. If you want to check your Twitter, Max, check it out. You can more than welcome to hop in here with us. But I mean, I don't know, Jane. Am I off on that? You think?
No, I don't think you're off at all. I think that's completely fair. Yeah. I think there's a rhyme or reason behind everything, and I just don't think any of these leaks happen too rushed. I think they're planned out.
Yeah. No, I don't feel like it's been rushed.
There's probably there's just probably some reason. And so I'm just trying to think of what those reasons would be. And one of them is, I'm thinking, is the more you say about it, the more actually you get put.
There's that beautiful face.
Hi, guys.
To trial for it,
Right. No, I hear what you're saying. What's up, Max? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, guys.
And what time is it over there?
You're
so mad. You're so upset with us. Why are you so mad with us?
Give the man a chance.
No, we aren't giving him a chance. We're saying we love look, dude. We're not bitching about getting the radar footage. I think everyone in this room is like, yeah, radar footage, good.
I'm giving him a chance. I've watched every one of his documentaries.
You're suggesting he's doing it to build a brand, and he might even use like some sort of a bait, I do think that's a bit dodgy.
I mean, dude, it's okay, but it's okay to build a brand, Max. Like building a brand,
building a brand,
right? Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We're not bitching about the brand building part. We're saying that's smart. That's a playbook. That's the way to get eyeballs. That's how my mother found his pyramid video. So I got no problem whatsoever with the branding aspect of it. And to label it a branding is not an insult. That's saying, okay, he's smart. He's doing it in a calculated, wonderful way that brings traffic to his website. There's nothing wrong with that.
Others too. I will say, Jeremy does prop others up a lot
all the time. He's propped up my channel, for God's sakes.
And I think that's very intentional, you know, on his part. Yeah,
for sure.
Look, I do think, you know, Jeremy is a very let's say eccentric guy, and he has a way of putting out his stuff. And I talked with Sean Cahill today about about Jeremy and the way he releases his things, and Sean called it a slow drip. Why the slow drip? But there's a thing. It's always a slow drip. Look at Elizondo. Look at Melon. They are not allowed, or they are bound to release everything simultaneously. It is politically sensitive. It is, for some people, personally sensitive. So I do think it's unfair to just disqualify Jeremy's release as something that is just building his brand, or
But we didn't disqualify it, though. That's the thing. I think that's where we're misunderstanding each other. I'm not disqualifying this whatsoever. I'm not disqualifying the fact that we just got great radar footage for the first time ever. That's not what we're doing here. We're saying is clearly this information drop rubbed people the wrong way, because if it didn't, he doesn't write this tweet. You know what I mean? So clearly the way he did it rubbed people the wrong way. We're exploring as to what those things are. And I think part of... Now, why what?
Why would it rub people the wrong way?
That's what we're talking about. I think part of it is you've got radar footage that nobody... Are you a radar expert? Did you know what you were looking at when you saw that?
Yeah, you know what? I just wrote it in the feed. Well, let's invite one.
That's my point, Max. You're not Jeremy Corbell, right? I'm not Jeremy Corbell. Is it safe to say that Jeremy Corbell knows a lot of people?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So all I'm saying is, if we're going to have that radar drop, which is great, all day, give it to me all day. All I'm saying, Jeremy, is bring a radar expert with you. So when people see it, you can explain it to them as best you can. Doesn't that, I mean...
Lewis, I can do that. You can do that.
No. First of all, I can't just do that. There's only one radar operator I know, and I don't even know him yet. And we've reached out to him, and that's Kevin Day. I mean, do you know any other radar operators that worked on that specific system other than Kevin Day?
Well, I can arrange one from the Netherlands.
I'm sure you can, but a Netherlands Navy man is not working on the same system as a U.S. Navy man. The technologies might be similar, but they're not the same system. And that's my point, is like U.S. Navy radar operators are rare. They're hard to find. And if somebody as well connected as Corbell is going to release radar footage, all I'm saying is bring a radar guy.
You have a country of 350 million people.
Yeah.
You can arrange a radar guy.
Max, out of 300
is a radar operator, apparently.
Please, somebody get in contact with him, because we would love to talk to you. My point is, out of 350 million people on the in this country, how many of them are Nimitz radar operators? Maybe 3,000 out of those 3,000, how many are going to want to come and talk on a radio show like this or a podcast about UFO footage from a guy they never heard of? I'm not saying it's not possible. All I'm saying is that for a person like me who is not as well connected as a Jeremy Corbell, that's a harder thing for me to do. It's something we're trying. Look, we've been working on it for the last 2 weeks, Max. We've been trying to get a radar guy in here.
I should mention that the day that this video dropped, we brought Jazz Shaw in to help us decode this because he saw he was 3 systems ago, but he was the best guy we had at the time. And I agree, absolutely. And so I'm just begging the folks in the chat who are connected with us to send those people our way. We want to talk to them. And I agree with you, Max, that he has every right to build his brand. He has every right to do all the things he's doing. There's nothing wrong with the slow drip. I'm totally fine with all of it. All I'm interested in is how do we extract more data from these drops to make them valuable to the people?
And Max, I got a question for you. So this could all be moot, right? So like, what happens if the UAP task force is released and there's a section in it that says, here's the pyramid video, here's the USS Kidd sphere video. We've investigated these, and these are actually examples of things that seem strange, but we've identified them. We know that they are drones of Chinese origin or something like that. There's another section with videos we're not going to show you where we do have weird UAP events, but these videos are known things. Would that change your mind about Corbell's actions prior to the release? It's a hypothetical for sure, but
No. I'm all for the truth. If Corbell's footage turns out to be drones, it's drones.
That's a fair point.
I don't care.
I feel like they would detract from the report if that happened, and that's kind of where my beef with Jeremy comes in. But I think that there's I see the other side too.
I think we all should mind the U in unidentified. We just don't know what the hell it is.
Right.
If it turns out to be drones, if it turns out to be fucking seagulls, it's seagulls, But we're all pursuing the same thing. It's what the hell is this?
Well, what I'm excited to be pursuing is the fact that Max hopped on this show and nobody was expecting it, and we got the man, the myth, the legend here. And so this is what happens on UCR. This is what happens. We get a little heated sometimes, and we get the best people that you weren't even expecting to be on the show. So that's why you got to stick around to the end. That's why the show is amazing. That's why Max is the man for joining us in this moment. So thank you, Max.
Mick West is a radar specialist. No, we love you, man. We love you. And look, you're right. We all want the same thing here. We're all here. We're all on the same boat. We're all on the same team. It's just like, I think to answer Rather's question, for me, Rather, I don't think it would. I'm with Max. The truth is the truth. If we get it, that it ends up to be Chinese drones. Great, awesome, wonderful answer. And I don't know if that, because if Jeremy Corbell was releasing that and saying that's what it is, definitively 100%. Sure, he's hinting at what it is.
I have theories on everything.
I've got theories on everything. Yeah,
I mean, because I've seen that, especially the George Knapp photos. I've seen so many. I've gotten so many photos like that over the years, and I tend to write a lot of them off. I debunk most things that I see, that I come across or get emailed to myself or in MUFON. So yeah, that would be no big deal at this point in the game. That's just that's per usual, is to end up explaining something.
Also, we have to extend these, if we want to call them journalists, investigators, filmmakers, the people that are providing us with this data, we have to extend them the opportunity to be wrong.
Totally.
We have to.
Yeah.
Now, if, say, that report comes out and in the UAPTF it's determined that those 2 things that he released are drones, let's just say, speculatively saying, and let's say he digs in and says, no, they're not drones. That's not what they are. Now I've got an issue. Okay, that's when where you might start losing me a little bit. But if he says, "Hey, they're drones," great. Well, what if Stephen Greer agrees with him? But if he comes out and he says, "Hey, I'm glad I didn't label that what it was. I'm glad we got clarity on it. But these are the things that we could look forward." or look for now in future video drops, and things to look out for, things that we've already seen, things that we could compare to, but we just don't know. And he's not saying one way or the other. Sure, he may be hinting, he may be marketing, but that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do.
I just want to touch on this comment. It says, you guys really need a radar guy to say that these dots here are what you think they are UFOs. Come on, man. Look, the Navy guys are for in the middle. All the dots around them are UFOs. So I get your point, but don't you want more information? Don't you want to know what those dots mean exactly? Don't you want to know if they're on the surface or if they're in the sky?
I got one better for you.
Know that information? I don't understand this idea of like you don't want that information.
Well, here's the thing. Put that comment back up. Is it MFMC? Yeah. Prove it.
Prove what?
Prove it. If what you're saying, these dots here are UFOs, and we're overanalyzing this, prove it. If clearly you know what you're looking at, you know radar systems, so please come on the show and prove it to us, because I want the data, I want the proof. But here's the thing, we can't, because we're not radar experts, and nobody's talked to a really good one that has worked within the last 10 years about this specific video.
We haven't had any fucking radar from the Nimitz, from the whatever we've seen, but we are all like heads down the rabbit hole, and we're so excited. Look, Jeremy has a source. Mm-hmm. He has a source, right?
Clearly,
he's protecting a source. He's a journalist. He's a filmmaker. If he's full of shit, he wouldn't be releasing all of that footage, and now he also released data along with that. Jeremy might, be releasing a actual, source, which I'm sorry, it's late. I can't find the English word anymore.
It's okay.
That proves the footage and the data, right? Like a witness, someone, the source,
someone maybe on the Viper team, someone who was in CIC, someone who's there. Right. Got it.
So he is getting this data, he's getting this footage from a source. I don't think it's made up. I think you need to give him a chance, like we give him.
I don't think anyone thinks that he's full of crap. I think that everyone I believes that he has the best intentions. My fear is just that maybe his source is nefarious, and he might be a little too apt to believe things. I mean, but I think his intentions are 100% pure.
Yeah, and just to be clear, nobody on this show thinks he's full of shit. Like, that's not what we're saying.
But at the same time, I can't sit here and tell you that his intentions are 100% pure. We don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know
that. But I'll absolutely give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll absolutely respect the fact that he's protecting his source. Like that, he has every right to do that, and he has every right to build his brand. And he has every right to do what he's doing. But it is what it is, and that's okay. And like, I love the fact that we were able to, Max, like you had a very distinct opinion of what we were saying. And then you wrote it in the chat, and then we brought you on, and then we can all have this conversation, and we can like understand where each other's coming from. That shit doesn't happen on Twitter. Okay. No. You can't do that. And and the fact that we can have this long form conversation and talk to each other and work out what we're missing about each other's points is the beauty of a show like this. So I really respect you, Max, for like being like, hey guys, like check it out. And then you coming on here and being like, and then we can understand where you're coming from, and you can understand where each of us as individuals are coming from. And then, so I respect, again, if you're in the chat right now, you're in the same boat, and we really appreciate that. So if you any radar experts out there, let us know.
Yeah, no, there was definitely some in there. I don't know. We could go through, rewatching the show to see who said it would be intense. But yeah, Max, I mean, look, dude, we love you, and we always follow your stuff because you give great interviews, and you've always bringing wonderful perspectives. And for whatever reason, people come on your show and they just start singing. They just start telling you stuff. It's amazing, dude. So
did he give you any insight, Max, into the radar? Did Cahill give you any insight into the radar at all? The radar video? Sean Cahill?
Jeremy's radar video?
Yeah.
Sean, he needs more proof too.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where everybody is, That's it. Yeah. I think that's everybody's in that we just need more proof boat. And the radar is part of. Look, don't think of it as proof. Think of it as a piece to a puzzle, a very, 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 very large puzzle. And that one piece is not going to satisfy finishing the puzzle. The same. They're not going to be the same feeling. So just take it. Analyze the hell out of it, and that's what I think with something like this especially, it's going to take a really long time, especially like you haven't heard Mick West debunking this stuff super easily. It hasn't but it hasn't been as loud as some of the other debunking, because it's like, well, are you a radar expert there, Mick West? Do you know for sure? So you're saying you know for sure what's on all these objects are on the radar. He can't say that. Like he can't.
There's no bokeh now.
There's no bokeh now, you know? So, for sure.
Have you guys looked into the Stephenville lights at all? It was a case here in Texas that purportedly had radar evidence. Mm-hmm. And similarly, like you can find, I'm looking through the supposed PDF document with radar evidence. And I'm just like, it looks nothing like what Jeremy showed. Like, and I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Right.
And I believe that event happened. And, and for folks who don't know, that was in 2008 and near Dallas. V-shaped lights that were purportedly headed toward George Bush's Crawford Ranch, then president at the time, which is a no-fly zone. Radar evidence, mass sighting.
The radar, everybody always cries for more radar, but nobody knows how to decipher it.
Yeah.
That's the problem with radar. It's like we need more people to help us decipher. So that's why we need like 15 Kevin days. So so UFO Jane can take that radar tracking from Stevensville and say, hey, what the hell are we looking at? Like, just, can you give me a clue? You know, and Jane, by the way, Stevensville, that's an older radar system. Maybe throw it by Jazz. He might be able to throw you a couple bones on there. I'm sorry, Max, go ahead.
Well, I would like to offer something. You know, I have a couple of military buddies here in Holland. One of my old friends, he was an Apache helicopter pilot for the Dutch Air Force. He served 2 tours of Afghanistan, served along the American forces, actually supported the American forces. And I can actually supply a radar expert if you want.
Yes.
And we can check it out.
Yes, of course. And come on the show when he comes on, so that way we can all hang. Just tell me the date.
Don't get it nearly
tell me the
Max
date, Max.
Moskowitz
Yeah, no, well, because it's so damn late over there right now. What time is it over there? It's got to be like 3 in the morning.
Almost 3.
Yeah.
Your wife's gonna kill us.
Yeah, all right, Max, we're gonna let you get out of here, my friend. Dude, thank you for coming by and thank you for clearing up. You know, maybe we're on the same page, right?
We are on the same page.
Yeah.
We are all in pursuit of the truth.
The truth.
Amen.
That's why I love you, brother. All right, man. Well, so please put me in touch with that radar operator and let's have a 4-way discussion about this radar.
I am, and if you're not responding, I will stalk you.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a Max Moskowitz stalking. Yeah.
And by the way, Louis, I love the new hair.
Thanks, bud.
You rock. And see you guys later.
All right, my friend.
Later,
we'll
brother.
see you soon. Thank you. Okay, so we've got 4 minutes left in the show, and we got to get to our last segment, which
UFO.
Yeah. It's okay. So it's, man, we got to make some an intro for this, and I've got some ideas. It'll be funny, but basically, it's UFO footage of the day. Hey. All right, so we're gonna pop up some UFO footage that I may or may have never seen, and then we're gonna give our opinions on whether or not we think it's bullshit, or if it's a real video. And what was funny is somebody was asking about this earlier in the chat. They were like, "Are you guys gonna be reviewing UFO videos?" I was like, "Yes, we are." So it sounds like this is gonna be something that people are gonna have a lot of fun with. Okay, so rather, are you in charge of playing the video, or who's in charge of playing the video?
You got it.
I got it.
Okay, cool. So we got 2, right?
No, we only got 1. Well,
We've
we
only
got
got
2
one.
videos,
Okay.
but we got 1 UFO video. But I got the UFO video right here.
Got it. Okay, what do we got?
Pay no attention to the title.
Oh, Cuba.
Mira, esto es como un extraterrestre, algo así.
Oh my God.
Una bola de candela en el aire, mira para eso tú. Mira aquello, mira lo que están tirando. Oye, pero como tiene distinto.
What?
That's pretty fucking wild.
Oh my God. Okay, let's pause it. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, 100%, those are real Cuban guys talking.
Okay.
That accent, 1,000,000%, without a doubt, 100% Cubans, without a doubt.
Good thing we had a Cuban expert on the show. See why experts matter, people?
This is why experts matter. Okay, so that's the first thing. But with that said, here's the problem with this video. There's no context to it. I don't know whether or not for sure if this is in Miami or if this is in fact in Cuba, because we don't have any landscape to compare to, because if it's hilly and mountainous or it's on a rocky ocean, then we definitely know it's for sure in Cuba. If it's in Miami, there's ways to tell. So that would be my only concern, like at first, but the voices are legit.
That's pretty wild, though.
That is what is going on there?
It looks like a whale with a plasma energy surrounding it to me.
So I actually thought it was a seagull on fire.
Ah, that's a good guess. Jane, you break down footage like this all the time. What are your thoughts? Have you seen this footage ever?
No, I haven't seen this one yet.
I'm sorry, can I also say real quick, if it is Cuba, I'm sure they do have a lot of cell phones over there, but I'm not sure how prevalent camera phones are in Cuba. Only because I don't know what the infrastructure in Cuba is like, if it could support, say, 4G, 3G, 2G.
Well,
I don't know.
You don't need that. All you need is high resolution smartphones. So you could have but
I'm saying high resolution smartphones in Cuba are not really a thing.
I remember there was an earthquake in Cuba that I covered, and it was maybe at the same time that the Russia asteroid happened, and barely anybody knew about it. Like, windows shattered and everything, because it was just there was so little information that came out.
Right. It's a communist island. It's a communist, like, things. It's hard for things, especially I think things like this to come out. So that would be that's like one of my red flags when I watch this. But Jane, I'm sorry, because I wanted to get Jane's. Shut up, rather. No, I'm kidding. I wanted to get Jane's opinion because she looks at stuff like this all the time. What do you think of the actual? Like, take away everything I just said. What do you think of the actual footage? Like, have you seen anything similar to this?
No, this is really wild. I'm wondering if there's some weird light being reflected. Like, if that
look at that, it like grows.
Actually, there the whole time, but it's so it looks like it's on fire. But there's some crazy just sunlit effect happening, just kind of creating this illusion. It is one of those really wild videos that if this was one where I knew the source of the information or where it was coming from, I'd probably share it with people to find out, short of putting it through some video analyses. But
yeah, I would like to see the channel. Usually when you look at the channel, it'll give you a really good clue as to
it's on the only real UFO channel. Luis.
Well, no, so
yeah.
Rather,
I've
what do
seen
you
another
think?
video in this channel where they had in the description, they told us the source of it, and it came from a MUFON report. So I do wonder if there's any additional information in the description here.
Well, here's the thing. This is not displaying any one of the 5 observables, as far as I can tell. Like, I've never seen. It's so funny. We always get these videos where we catch them. Of course, I can understand catching them like as they get there, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And then you whip out your cell phone. But why you wouldn't keep filming until they zip off again?
I know.
I'm always like, why did this end? Like, where's the long? There's got to be a longer version of this, because who the hell would stop filming?
They're like, that's enough. I got it.
You know, like a spinning, a giant moth with a spinning, Pokemon ball in it. Like, what is going on there? It's wild, dude. That's a wild video, man.
It's definitely a
I'm gonna lean fake.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean fake as well.
Okay.
It's amazing though. I hate it. I hate to be that. I hate it. I want it to be real so bad.
Yeah, I would love to know more context. I say it does look a little bit CGI to me, but I'd love to know more.
Yeah.
I would say fake too. It's either that or some weird, I don't know, light. I'm trying to imagine some situation where there's a balloon or a kite or something, and the sun's like reflecting off of it, because it can create some really wild thing. But yeah, I'm leaning towards CGI.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this: if it was real.
Yeah.
As soon as, let's play when it shapeshifts, because I want to hear what these guys are saying. If these were real Cubans, they would be like, "Oye, cabrón, mira eso, coño, mira, cago en su madre." They would be cursing like sailors if that was actually happening.
Can you tell what they're saying at all?
No, my Spanish isn't that great. But I can tell you, they're not excited. They're not.
Turn the volume on.
I mean, they're talking about something, but this could be audio from another video that they laid over this, and they're talking about something in the sky.
Marcos Espinoza says, "I'm Cuban. There are iPhones and Androids in Cuba."
Fair. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're not. There definitely could be. I could be totally wrong on that.
There's that spinning thing on it. So I don't know that it's shape-shifting so much as you're just only seeing the light on that spinny thing. And so it's like it's hiding the rest of it. So it's not shape-shifting, I don't think.
Mark, my fellow Cuban in here, do me a favor. I mean, they're not... Am I
Sounds like it's a...
Mira pa eso, I mean, like, they're...
Does he say extra?
But like right there, where that thing does what it just did. I mean, am I crazy, Marcos? They'd be going nuts. Like, I just picture my uncles looking at this, and they would be going bonkers. A lot more bonkers than those guys. But I mean,
to Jane's point, though, I don't think it changed. I think that's just the camera focusing. It probably optically looked the same for the entire thing.
You think maybe.
The spinning light thing is what's anomalous here. So the object itself could be anything, a kite, anything. It's just sitting there, right? But there's a spinning light around it. So the question is that a separate? Is that like a propeller thing? Is that a light reflecting effect? And that's what's doing the fireball thing in the beginning of the video. And then you can see because it's spinning, just like that light. Right. So that's why I say it may not be fake. It could be just some like weird illusion that even the witnesses though knew what it was, and like still or like it got posted to a YouTube video. The witnesses knew what it was, and then somebody snatched it up and called it a UFO, or something like that.
Poor Marcus. Everyone in the conversation is like, Marcus, can you translate, Marcus?
Alex in our chat in our private chat said he says it's an extraterrestrial or something like that. Maybe it's opening a wormhole. That's what the guys saying.
I think it's a lot more convincing than Tom DeLonge's TR3B video that he pulled up on Joe Rogan. It does look cool.
No, it is cool. I mean, I can't imagine that the concept of wormholes are popping up a lot in Cuba. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, man. It's it's an isolated island. I don't know. I know a lot of information doesn't go in and out. The stuff that does go in and out is usually brought in by locals and folks that are visiting that used to live there. But it's cool. It's a cool video. All right, well, I mean, that's the show, you guys. We did it. We did it. We did it.
Another one in the can.
So real quick, let me tell everybody, rather be squidding the gentleman here that just joined us today, who helps us with them on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is a UFO enthusiast and researcher. His YouTube channel, Rather Be Squidding, focuses on cutting-edge science, technology, and UAP news. Guys, go check out his latest video on time crystals. We talked all about it yesterday on Michael's show, The Singularity Lab. It was awesome. Rather, thank you so much for hanging out, man. You're always a bright spot in my day.
Oh, thank you. Anytime.
Yeah. All right, buddy. We'll see you
You're the
soon.
man, Rather. Thank you, buddy.
And then, of course, last but not least, hey, Jane, I'm sorry we didn't. We were going to do his mid-season review on Skinwalker, but everybody was like, nah, let's not do it. What do you think? Did we make the right choice?
Yeah, I mean, the news and the real world is just as weird as Skinwalker Ranch, anyways. And,
Yeah.
Weirder.
yeah. Well, it's getting there.
It's getting there. Well, I'm almost kind of looking forward to Skinwalker season 2 ending, so you start coming back every Wednesdays, and we could just start having some really fun conversations, because I just absolutely love your perspectives. I love how you helped us break down that video, because you've seen a lot of this stuff. This is what you do all day, every day.
I mean, that was I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that one before, so I'm excited what you guys turn up, because I focus on the Texas reports too.
Yeah.
So,
well, Texas is a great hotspot.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do Texas for the rest of your life. Honestly, there's always something going on in Texas. Let me ask you real quick before you go, if you can answer it quickly. What is your favorite Texas UFO case?
I really like the Aurora, Texas one from 1897 because it's pre-Roswell. You've got alien sighting, alien body, big cigar craft.
They buried one apparently, right?
Rumors of military cover-up that still linger today. You know,
Can you imagine a military cover-up in what year was it?
1897.
What? That must have been the worst cover-up in U.S. military history.
I know a lot about it.
Oh my God!
Could you imagine how easy it would be to cover something up by the military in 1897?
There's no phones. Is Morse code a thing by 1897? I feel like it is. But yeah, it would just be
actually like newspaper articles.
Yeah,
amazing.
Dude, okay, well we got to talk about this when the Skinwalker ends, so we could get more into details on some of these cool cases that you're talking about in Texas and looking at. So with that said,
cool. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Miss Texas UFO researcher Jane Kyle, aka UFO Jane, has documented over 1,000 UFO cases over the years and has interviewed experts and witnesses on her YouTube channel called The Weird UFO Jane, or The Weird UFO Show. You can find real quick before you go, all of her links are, by the way, her links are in the description in the chat. So are Rather's. We got to get Blumenthal's in there. I forgot to put his stuff in there, but Ralph Blumenthal's super easy to find.
Great interview.
Thank you. And so, real quick before you go, Jane, can you just tell everybody where they can find you, point them toward your wonderful work?
Yeah. You could just search UFO Jane on YouTube and you'll find me. And I mean, you just search that. But I'm on all the different places and different handle names, so it's not super consistent.
Right on. Well, that's okay, Jane. You're here every Wednesday. That's consistent enough for me.
I love it. Yeah,
and it warms my heart. I loved your tie.
I love being part of this.
Such a great tie.
I am honestly having your voice here is, I love it. I cannot explain to you how much I love it. Just because we need more female voices in this game. There's a lot of just big dumb gorillas like me. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear your voice pierce all of this mansplaining. All of this mansplaining. So I love it. I love your tie. I'm so happy you wore a tie today. And if you want to keep wearing a tie, Jane, you go for it, girl. I think you can really pull off anything you want. All right, my lady. We'll see you next Wednesday.
It's a pleasure, Jane. Thank you.
Woo.
Great show, man.
Dude.
Great show.
Dude.
A lot of sausage.
I mean, dude, think about this. Ralph Blumenthal, Jazz Shaw in the first hour. We had UFO Jane and Max Moskowitz impromptu stopping. Dude, this show is killer, you guys. Like, these are the conversations that I wish I had seen when I was in the UFO listening aspect of stuff. You know, like I never intended to make this show like this, but I'm so happy that this is what it's turned into. You know, I've got.
Was it the big phone home that really was like the?
Well, the planning of the big phone home, it forced me to listen to a whole bunch of people that I hadn't heard before, and also learn about their work and learn who they are and see how valuable they are, you know, like how valuable a UFO Jane is to this, how valuable a Cristina Gomez is, or a Max Moskowitz, or Jeremy Corbell, or an alien girl. Like, all of these people bring some wonderful things to the table, and where we try on this channel is let's come on the common ground. Let's try and find what the common ground is, which I think we can all agree. We want more truth, more transparency, more dialogue with our representatives and state governments on this topic. And it's time. Like, it's time. Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube, man. There's no way putting it back in. We hear this all the time, but it's a marathon, not a race.
This issue is not going anywhere. We're going to be covering this for a long time.
For those of you
who are here on the ground floor, who are really supporting the show from the beginning, thank you so much. Please share, please subscribe. Make sure you click that button, click the bell right now. Follow UCR on Twitter. This is a huge topic, and we're not going anywhere. So we're here to bring you amazing content 5 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right here on UCR. You can find us every single day at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And on Tuesday and Thursday, you can find us at the Singularity Lab every single Tuesday and Thursday. All you got to do is click the link in my description. Go subscribe. Meet us there tomorrow. We're going to be talking we're talking about space robots and a bunch of other cool shit. So we're going to be tech geeking it out tomorrow. So if you're a futurist and a tech geek, come join us over there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's we can't stress it enough. We do, between the two of us, we do a show for you guys 5 days a week. The only day that's different is Friday. We start our show at 1 because that allows a lot of our UK friends to come and join the conversation. It also allows Mikey to get out of here a little earlier on a Friday so he can go enjoy his family. And it also allows us to bleed right into Cristina Gomez's show, which, by the way, on Fridays, it's going to be us for 2 hours starting at 1 p.m. And then Cristina Gomez is going to go live on her channel right as soon as we're done. We're doing that on purpose. There's a reason for that. She's a huge contributor and a part of what we're doing here. And so, yeah, she's going to be helping us provide now 6 shows a week for you guys, 2 on Friday. So go support her. I mean, we've got a lot of people that help with the show outside of Cristina. Of course, all of the folks who contribute, Jazz, Alec. The list goes on. Like, the list goes on and on and on. All of you guys, you know who you are. We appreciate your love. We appreciate your support. We appreciate the voices that you lend and the variety of opinions that you lend to this channel. So that way you and I don't get stuck in this we know what we're talking about lane, we don't know shit. Like, we know nothing. I'm an actor, he's a marketing guy. We're just here because we're fascinated by the topic. Yeah. And we love to hash it out and go to the woo-woo, but we always come to the solid ground of there's things in our sky. We know they're real. The Air Force has chased them. The DOD, the Department of Navy Intelligence, has confirmed these things as real. Now it's trying to figure out what they are, what they're doing here, who they are, when are they? Like, all of these crazy questions that start happening after you open that can. And we're here to provide a rational discussion, and we always bring it down to that reality. So thank you guys so much for understanding the show, for getting the show, for getting hype about the show, for putting in the super chats, for going to the Patreon. And by the way, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a way to support this show monthly. You could donate $1 up to $500,000 a month if you've got the guts, and there's a bunch of comfortable numbers in between $1 and $500,000. I promise you. But here's the beautiful thing about the show is you don't have to join the Patreon to get the content right away. Whether you pay $0, whether you pay $500,000, you get the same show, the same time as everyone else. We don't hide content. We don't pre-release things. We don't have after shows where we all hang out and you're not invited. Everyone's invited to participate. Everyone's invited to have a voice in this channel. We're going to start taking calls also on Fridays, so you guys can call into us and challenge us. Ask us questions, whatever you want to do. So yeah, anything else, Mikey, from you?
No, I just hope A Case for Infinity joins us tomorrow at the Singularity Lab to explain to me how we're already space robots. If you think about it, I'm very curious about that comment. So thank you for that.
He's got an interesting argument there.
And also, if you guys have anything you want us to cover tomorrow on the Space Robots episode, all you got to do is either follow me on Twitter at Singularity Mike. My DMs are always open. Send me any links, articles, ideas that you have. You can also join our Discord if you're not happy with only getting 2 hours of us a day, and you need you need that additional 22 hours a day, please make sure you follow us on Discord so you can stay in the conversation when we're not here.
And also, just a reminder, Friday we're having Daniel Otis from Vice Magazine. We've got a bunch of other guests on the docket as well. So for Friday, it's going to be a really fun day. So don't forget to subscribe, like, share the channel, especially if you can't donate financially. That's cool. The liking and subscribing and the liking and the commenting, all that stuff helps us. That's a way to help us if you can't do it in the other means. So with all that said, the show was brought to you by BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. All the jams that you hear on the show are provided by DOS Tapes. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. They've got a new album coming out. I cannot wait to listen to it. It's going to be dope. We're going to be playing it here all the time. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 4 o'clock on the Singularity Lab, and on Friday, 1 o'clock back here on the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. Aloha. Peace. Hold on, let's take us out of here.
You know how we get down. Get yourselves looking sexy, girls, and we can take you all back to funky town. Don't mind if we bring the noise. We just gotta turn it up. Get your girls and the train boys. Cause once we get moving, ministry don't stop. Cause once we get moving, ministry don't stop. Cause everybody wants to be